As we have understood how to create data frames from collections such as list of dicts or list of tuples, let us go through some of the basic operations we typically perform on top of pandas data frame. They are nothing but getting number of records and columns, getting data types of the columns, replacing a NaN with some standard values, dropping a column from the data frame, getting or updating column names, and also sorting by index or values. We'll understand what is an index and what is a value, and then we'll actually see how to sort the data in a data frame either by index or values. Now let's first import pandas as PD. Here we have list of dicts with 3 elements. The first element have only 2 columns, ID and sal. The second element have 3 columns, ID, sal and commission. The third element have 3 columns, ID, salary and active. Let's create this list of dicts, and then using this let's create the sals_df data frame. Let's preview the data. You can see that for those attributes where the records doesn't exist, the values are NaN with respect to both commission as well as active. As the data frame is created, if you wanted to access only one attribute, you can actually say data frame name square brackets and then attribute name or column name. It will actually return a series and you should be able to see the results here. We have seen this earlier also. I'm just reiterating. Now, if you want to project multiple fields such as ID and salary, you can actually project like this. You can actually specify both the columns as part of the square brackets like this, and it will project both ID and salary for you. You can see that ID 1, salary 1500 for first one, 2 and 2000 for second one, and 3 and 2200 for third one. Now you can actually get the details about the data frame such as number of records in the data frame and also number of columns by using an attribute called as shape. Shape is an attribute as part of the data frame. Every data frame will contain it. You can actually run this and you should be able to see that it is nothing but of type tuple. The first attribute in the tuple is nothing but number of records. Actually, this is not attribute. The first element in this tuple is nothing but number of records, which is 3. The second element is nothing but number of columns, which is 4. We have ID, sal, commission and active. That's why it show 4 here. So shape is not a function. It is just an attribute within a data frame. Data frame is a class. It have several other attributes also. Shape is one of the important attribute which will give us the details about the size of the data frame, both from the number of records as well as number of columns perspective. Now to get number of records from this tuple, you should be able to access the first element like this, and it will give us the number of records from the data frame. If you want to get the number of non-null values from each and every column in a data frame, you can use count like this, and you should be able to see the result. All the 3 records or 3 values in ID are not null. That's why we got 3. When it comes to salary, all the 3 values are not null. When it comes to commission, only one not null value is there. That's why it is 1. Same is the case with active. Now, if you want to access only ID and salary, you can actually say of column 2 like this. Because it's a series, you should be able to get the details about ID and salary. If you want to get only with respect to ID, you can actually say ID like this. Because it's a series, you should be able to access even by using index elements like this. So in this case, for this series, the index elements are nothing but ID, salary, commission and active. Corresponding values are nothing but 3, 3, 1 and 1. Now if you run this, it will just give the number of not null records or not null values from ID, which is nothing but 3. Now let's preview the data once again. You can see that it contains ID, salary, commission and active. If you want to see the data types, data frame have an attribute called as dtypes. It will give us the data types of all the columns in the data frame. In this case, ID is of type int64, salary and commission are of type float64, and active is of type object. There is no boolean with respect to data frame attributes. It have only int, float and then object. Most of the attributes are represented as object. Probably there might be string and few others, but you can get the data type details by using this attribute. Don't worry too much about all the supported data types at this time. Once the data frame is created, if you want to get the data types of each and every attribute, you can use this piece of code. Just give the data frame name dot dtypes, which is nothing but attribute in the data frame. It will give us the column names as well as corresponding data types. Now, when it comes to our data, for ID1, we have both commission and active as NaN. For ID2, we have active as NaN. For ID3, we have commission as NaN. We might want to replace with some standard values when it comes to these NaNs. If you look at the help on fill NA, you can see that there are several keyword arguments: value, method, axis, in place, limit, downcast, etc. The most important one is value. If you just pass one argument, whether you specify value or not, it doesn't matter. It will try to replace all the NaN values with that. You can see here. If I scroll down and if I run this, you can see that both commission and active are replaced with zeros. However, active is supposed to be of type boolean and commission is supposed to be of type float, and hence I wanted to replace NANs with respect to commission as 0.0 and with respect to active as true. Now you can pass the dict like this in place of regular values like this. In this case, the key is nothing but attribute name. You can pass any of these attributes such as ID, sal, commission, active, etc. And with respect to commission, if they are NAN, I want to replace with 0.0. This will take care of replacing NAN values of commission with 0.0. Now, if you want to replace commissions with 0.0 and active with true, you can actually pass the dict like this. You can specify the column names and the respective values like this. For active, I wanted to specify true, and for commission, I want to specify 0.0. Now, if you run this, you can see that with respect to commission, the NAN values are replaced with 0.0s. With respect to active, the NAN values are replaced with true. Now, original data frame will be untouched whenever we run these functions. Instead, a new data frame will be created. Original data frame still contain NAN. We typically assign the output of most of the data frame functions to another variable or object. Let's preview the data of sales_df now. Still, it contains NANs when it comes to commission and active. We can actually invoke the functions such as fillNA like this, and we should be able to assign this to another variable or object. If you give the same name while assigning it to a variable or object, the existing data frame will be recreated with this name. Now sales_df have 0.0s and trues in place of NANs. This is how you should be able to update the existing data frame. Let's understand how we can actually drop rows or columns from a data frame. We can use the drop function to drop both rows or columns. You can see the help for the drop. It has several arguments. The most important ones are these four: labels, axis, index, columns. Axis equal to 0 by default, which means it will try to delete the rows. If you specify 1, it will actually try to delete the columns. So to specify to work with rows, we use 0 for axis. To specify to work with columns, we use 1 for axis. Now, when it comes to labels, they are nothing but column names if you are talking about columns, or these ones if you are talking about rows. So these are nothing but index labels. Now, if you just pass one argument, it will try to delete the rows because the first keyword argument is nothing but labels. So it will check for names going to these values. If they exist, it will try to delete from the data frame. Otherwise, it will just ignore. If you want to pass labels and if you want to drop columns, you have to specify axis as 1. You can see examples as part of the documentation here. In this case, as per the documentation, they have created a data frame by name df with 4 columns A, B, C, and D, and 3 rows with index labels 0, 1, and 2 respectively. Now, if you want to drop B and C columns by specifying labels and axis, this is how you have to say. You don't need to specify labels here because labels is anyway first argument. If you say B, C without axis, it will try to look for these names as part of these labels. As there are no B and C here, it will not delete anything. As the intention is to drop the columns, we have to specify axis equal to 1. It will try to delete the columns with these labels. You can also use columns keyword argument and pass the columns as list like this to drop the columns directly without specifying axis. You can also drop a row by index by just specifying labels like this. As axis equal to 0 by default, if there are labels like this as part of the index, it will just delete those rows. Now let's see how we can actually drop columns such as commission or commission and active. In case if you want to drop only one column, you can directly specify columns equal to commission like this. It will take care of dropping the commission for you. Again, it will not touch the existing data frame. It will create a new data frame with 3 columns. If you wanted to drop both commission and active at the same time, either you can run this way, or you can also say labels equal to, or even without labels equal to, you can just pass the labels. However, you just have to say axis equal to 1 here. If you say axis equal to 1, it will just drop the 2 columns with names commission and active. If you don't have axis equal to 1, it will try to delete the rows with labels commission and active. As there are no such names, it just threw some exception. You can see the exception: commission and active not found in axis. In this case, axis is 0. To get it working, we just have to say axis equal to 1 like this. So wherever you see axis with respect to data frame, it is primarily to differentiate whether you want to work with rows or columns. If it is 0, you will be working with rows. If it is 1, you will be working with columns. Now let's run this and we can see that both commission and active are dropped from our data frame. If you want to update the sales underscore df data frame with the dropped columns, you can reassign to the same variable name, which is nothing but sales underscore df, and you should be able to see the existing columns by saying sales underscore df dot columns. Even columns is an attribute similar to shape and details, which we have seen earlier, which will give us the column names. In this case, we have 3 columns, ID, sal, and active. You can see the details here. If you want, you can replace the names of these columns by specifying names like this. So in this case, I can say sales underscore df dot columns equal to employee ID comma salary and run. As we have 3 columns as part of the data frame, and as we are trying to rename only 2 of them using this approach, it is failing. You can see the error here. Length mismatch, expected axis has 3 elements, new values have only 2 elements. So in this case, you can say commission like this. All the 3 column names will be updated for us. You can see the names of the columns now as employee ID, salary, commission. Here we don't need to reassign to sales underscore df because we are updating the attribute directly. Earlier the attribute contained the values like this. Now we have updated with these values, which are reflecting as updated column names. Now let's understand how to sort the data. Either we can sort by index or values. You can see the help with respect to sort underscore index. You can see axis is 0, and then you have all these additional arguments. You have an important keyword argument called as ascending. It is set to true by default. That's why data will be sorted in ascending order. You can see the output here by running this. If you want to sort the data in descending order, you just have to say ascending equal to false. Data is sorted by index in descending order. 2 is at the top, then 1, then 0, and all the column values are updated accordingly. If you do not have this, then it will just sort the data in ascending order by index. So ascending is the important keyword argument when it comes to sort underscore index. Same is the case with sort underscore values. You can actually specify by using which column you want to sort the data. You can even perform composite sorting by using by. You can specify a list of columns on which data is supposed to be sorted, and it will take care of it. Then you can use ascending. With respect to ascending, if you just say true or false, it will apply the order on all the columns that are being used for the sorting. You can also pass a list to ascending to actually sort the data using a specific order for corresponding columns that are specified under by. We will see an example, you will understand. So in this case, using by, you can specify on what columns we can sort the data. Using ascending, we can specify how the data should be sorted. There are few additional arguments also which you can explore, but by and ascending are the most important ones. Now if I scroll down here, and if I say sales underscore df dot sort underscore values by equal to employee ID, ascending equal to false, you can see that data is sorted in descending order by employee ID. You can also sort the data by salary. Now the data is sorted in ascending order by salary. If you want to sort the data in descending order by salary, you can actually run this. It will take care of sorting the data in descending order by salary. Now let's create this data frame with 4 records. You can see that 2 of the IDs have 2000 as salary. Now I want to sort the data in descending order by salary and then ascending order by ID. If there are any conflicting or duplicate records with respect to salary, then the data should be further sorted by ID. Now let's create the data frame using this. Let's first sort the data by saying sales underscore df dot sort underscore values. We have to specify by here, by equal to. We want to sort the data first by salary and then by ID. You can see the output here. Data is sorted in ascending order by salary, and then as there are duplicates with respect to 2000, the data is sorted in ascending order. You can see here. So 2 came first and then 4. Now if you want to sort the data in descending order by salary, in case of conflicts, then if you want to get the IDs in ascending order, then you can just specify like this. So by equal to the fields on which you want to sort the data, ascending equal to the order for each field in which data is supposed to be sorted. Now if you run this, you can see that the first record is with highest salary, second and third records are with 2000. However, the data is sorted in ascending order by ID for this. If you do not have this, if you just say ascending equal to false like this, then this is how the data will be. There is one extra square bracket. Let me delete this and let me run this. You can see that when it comes to IDs, they are also sorted in descending order in case of 2000. If you want to switch that to ascending order, by sorting in descending order when it comes to salary, and then by ascending order when it comes to ID within each salary. This is how you can specify. So the order will be applied on the corresponding column which is specified as part of the by. So this is how you should be able to perform composite sorting using sort underscore values on multiple columns. So we have seen all the common operations which we typically perform on top of data frames. These are some of the important ones. We might have to learn more. You can explore those things as and when you see different types of requirements. You just have to go through the functions, understand the keyword arguments, and you should be able to get the solution for your problem statement by existing functions itself. In the worst case, you might have to develop some user-defined functions on top of data frames to actually come up with solutions for those problems where there are no APIs or functions already available with respect to pandas. So that being said, as we have understood how to create data frames using collections and also understood how to take care of basic operations, now it is time for us to read the files into a data frame and perform some standard transformations using appropriate APIs that are available on top of data frame. And also we have to see how to write the data frames into the files so that we have end-to-end idea about dealing with data frames when it comes to data processing, whether we are talking about mobile application or web application or data engineering applications. We will get into those details as part of the subsequent topics.